It would be such a bombshell if the family, like if someone in the family were extorting Savannah for a ransom demand and had nothing to do with the kidnapping. That would be so mind-blowing, Will.
Hey, my famous fam. Welcome back to Famous Faces Scoop TV, where we break down the biggest celebrity stories making headlines with thoughtful analysis and respectful discussion. If you're new here, my name is Wendy, and if you enjoy in-depth coverage that explores every angle of a story, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss one of our latest videos. As always, today's video is for commentary and discussion based on publicly available information. Our goal is to examine the claims, the investigative theories, and the developments surrounding this case, not to reach conclusions or replace the work of law enforcement. With that said, let's dive into today's discussion and how this case had been managed by the local sheriff's department, how the crime scene had been opened and released way too early, the fact that there have been so many people discounted as potential suspects. And I think, as James said, I completely concur that until you actually have a body, you can't discount anybody.
Now, let's throw into the mix and maybe into the forum for discussion a couple of factors. Firstly, looking at those ransom demands and that the tonal difference between one that we would perceive to be in more of a male voice and the other one in a more female voice. Let's also add into the mix the old mantra in our industry, which I've certainly seen in practice over the last 30 years, Megan, of the 70% rule, which I've mentioned to you before.
Which is in 70% of kidnappings, there is someone connected to the hostage in some shape or form, whether it be a family member or whether it be an associate, a friend, but someone who knows the victim or the hostage. And then very lastly, there have been, and again, I discussed this with the guys in the break, there have been cases where you have one successful sibling who's done immensely well and exceptionally well financially and monetarily. And there is another sibling that hasn't done so well and is perhaps a little bit embittered about it and has chosen to kidnap another family member to basically then try and extort from that other family member. I wouldn't discount anything right now, that's for sure.
I wanted to pick up on the discussion we were having about the fraudster injects urgency right from the top. And I made mention of this before, but we had a whole week of specials in June of 2024. We called it Fraud Week, and we told various people's fraud stories where they were actually defrauded or an attempted fraud occurred. And we culminated that week in my own attempted fraud against me and my family.
It was really perpetrated. Patient zero was my mother-in-law, my husband's elderly mom, who got a phone call from what she thought was her hysterical daughter, Doug's sister, saying, "Mom, I've been in a terrible car accident, and I've been arrested because we were arrested for DWI. And my partner, Brad, that's basically her spouse, has been arrested because he punched a cop. And we're in jail right now. And we need bail. And this is the number of my lawyer, please call." All right, so we get a call from Doug's mom saying, "I spoke to Diane.
She's in jail. DWI, they don't even drink. But, you never know. It was COVID. It was like everybody was doing weird things. And we're like, holy shit, this is the mother who said, I talked to my own daughter. We didn't even think to question whether that was in fact Diane. And we were well down the lane of paying the money to bail them out, $17,000, before it dawned on one of our cabal to go by Brad and Diane's house. And there they were, sitting there totally oblivious that the whole family had been running around trying to bail them out of jail because of this alleged incident. It was all a lie, but it was an elaborate lie. And, it started with the urgency. They had an actor, a female actor, who pretended to be Diane and convinced Diane's mother.
She thought she was talking to her own daughter. She said she had broken her nose in the car crash, so she sounded a little different. And she was hysterical. She was hysterical crying. She's dealing with an 86-year-old mom at this point. Anyway, there's that on the urgency. And then there's this, which we again think is a separate person, but we don't know. The second round of emails to Harvey Levin came from a person saying, "I'm not the kidnapper, but I know him. I've seen him. And I do think this is very telling." So this person chimed in with, "I know where they are." TMZ reported this through Harvey, saying, We received a note just before 5 a.m. Pacific time. The sender claims they've unsuccessfully tried to reach Savannah Guthrie's brother Cameron and her sister Annie by email and text. If they want the name of the individual involved, then I want 1 Bitcoin sent to the following wallet. Time is more than relevant. They included a legitimate Bitcoin address, and it's a different address from the one in the original 2 notes. Then they say...
Okay, so then they say, time is more than relevant. Then they get a second letter from the friend. They say, TMZ, okay, received a second email from the same person who complained, I'm not being taken seriously. It says, one thing he makes clear, the situation has changed from Wednesday to Thursday. He says he will need money to lay low after identifying the kidnapper for fear of retaliation. He also worries he might be incriminated like that Carlos guy, the delivery man who was detained and released. He ends the second note to Harvey by saying, this is his final attempt to help. This is it.
I want my 1 Bitcoin and you won't be hearing from me again. Well, what happens? That was Thursday, February 12th. What happens on Friday, February 13th? As you guys all know exactly what happened, we hear from him again. As it turns out, it wasn't the final message. A third email from the guy comes in, and now he's raised his price. He says he's contacting TMZ because he doesn't trust law enforcement. He says, you don't trust me and I don't trust you. To authorities, he suggests the reward being doubled by the FBI to $100,000 was a move designed to discredit him. He says when he gets the initial payment, he'll give up the name of the main individual. Referring to the main individual suggests that there are accomplices. He refers to the current state of Nancy Guthrie but won't be specific. This email does warn authorities that if they cooperate with the sender, they should be prepared to go international.
Okay, but he's still in touch. He hasn't cut off touch. And then comes one on Sunday, February 15th. Wait a minute, what happened to... This is it, you won't hear from me again. Here we are back on Sunday, February 15th. A 4th email, same Bitcoin account as the other 3 notes. I know what I saw 5 days ago south of the border, and I was told to shut up. So I know who he is, and that was definitely Nancy with them, upping the ante about what he's seen.
And that's the second reference he's made to being there and to there being more than 1 person involved. He says he has a burglary conviction from 10 years ago, so he's scared to come forward. Then on Friday, June 26th, yet another email allegedly comes from this person. Now this person says he has video of the main guy and Nancy on the day she died.
The point being, the urgency is there, the lies become apparent, and it's like the arc of a fraudster. Mm-hmm. And if we look back at just those first 2 ransom notes, I take your point, James. They have a similar arc where it's like urgency and tough and like, or else. And then like, oh, she perished. It's not your fault, you know, but still possibly keeping the family on the line.
Just think about all of the resources and the time we've spent just talking about these notes. We've spent a lot of time on these shows talking about these notes. There are investigators behind the scenes who are having to work through all of this while also dealing with the family. They're trying to figure out whether any of this is real. It's very difficult, hard work. And if these are fraudsters, investigators are eventually going to have to say in their report, we're moving away from this because this person is clearly a fraudster. And they better be right, because they'll be asked about it and judged later if they were wrong.
But we need other investigators who are working other buckets of this case. And you see how much time this has taken just us. And if they don't have a lot of resources, which again, I'd like to know exactly how many people are working on this thing, there's a lot of bodies getting chewed up with nonsense, right? And that's part of what's going on. And that's why we're sitting here 6 months later and there's nothing, right? We have nothing. But these things can tend to take us down these rabbit trails. And if we don't have a lot of resources and a lot of bodies working it makes this very, very difficult.
And we may get there. But it's almost the way she's talking in those videos. Does the Bureau feel like some of this could be legitimate? Because the way she speaks in her recent video from a few days ago, some of her wording makes me believe that if behavioral analysts and agents with the Bureau are talking to her, they do somewhat feel like there is still some type of communication going on behind the scenes. That is exactly, I don't know if there's still communication, but she definitely told Hoda that she thinks those first 2 notes are real. And I think she probably got that from the FBI. Because Savannah is a sophisticated person, she wouldn't be deviating from what federal law enforcement had told her. Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What stood out to you the most from everything discussed in this segment? Do you think these anonymous communications deserve more attention, or do you believe investigators are handling them appropriately? Share your perspective respectfully in the comments below. If you found this analysis informative, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to Famous Faces Scoop TV, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest celebrity news and in-depth case breakdowns. Thank you so much for watching and for being part of the Famous Fam. I truly appreciate every one of you. Until next time, take care, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video.